Hi everyone, this is Ramanuj from LawSikho. Thank you for joining me today. Why don't you all introduce yourselves in the chat? We are going to talk about a very interesting topic today. I'm sure you are going to really like it. We are going to talk about legal due diligence, red flags, right? Red flags in due diligence process, investors, money, valuation of companies, and even why investors back out sometimes because of red flag during due diligence. It's a lot of interesting topics, right? So hi Jessica, hi Uma, Kshitij, Harish, Anubhav, how are you guys doing? Hi Rahul. Okay, cool. So a lot of you are here today. I can start, right? So how many of you are law students? How many of you are lawyers? If you can tell me in the chat quickly, what do you guys do? Hi Sumant. Law students, if you're a law student, write law student. If you're a lawyer, write lawyer. If you do something else, then write that. All right, super. Law student, you have to learn practical skills. A few lawyers, a lot of law students from what I see. Okay, so let's jump into today's presentation. Whether you're a lawyer or law student, especially if you're looking, how many of you are already doing corporate law? How many of you actually have done a due diligence? If you have done due diligence before, just write in the chat, I have done a due diligence before, or just write yes, so that I know that there are people who are actually have done due diligences before. That'll be awesome. Sumedha, you have done one before. Uma has done. Juhi has done. Great, great. Quite a few of you have done due diligences before. So maybe you'll be able to relate to what I say today and add on your observations, comments in the chat. You're most welcome to do so. Right? So I'm sure your comments will add more value to today's discussion. Right? And thank you for joining me. Let's get started. Let's have an awesome session today. A lot of learning, value packed, right? Okay, major red flag issues in legal due diligence that reduce valuation or make investors back out. Okay, but we're going to talk about basic concepts of due diligence as well. So even if you don't know anything about due diligence, nothing to worry about, you'll still be able to pick up a lot of stuff. Okay, what is due diligence? Since we have so many people here who are lawyers, who knows about due diligence, why don't you start by telling me a bit about what is due diligence? Many of you can say this in the chat. You can quickly type out in simple words what according to you is due diligence. Financial transactional exchanges. Okay, wild guess. Anybody else? Investigation and audit. Uma is saying it's a precaution taken by the company to prevent from any suffering. But which company? Which company? Uma is saying it's a precaution taken by the... All right. Investor company. Right. So the people who are investing or buying a company, buy side. So there are two sides in a deal. In any transaction, there are two sides. There's a buy side and a sell side. So it's very easy to say buy side, sell side, whether it's a M&A, merger or acquisition, or if it is a investment, if it is whatever it is, there's a buy side, people who are buying into something, people who are investing, people who are buying the company. So the buy side, right? And the sell side, people who are selling the shares in equity transactions, right? So buy side and sell side, and usually due diligence is done by the buy side, not the sell side, right? The due diligence happens on the sell side. So the sell side, we want to know before buying the shares of the sell side or buying the company or buying the business, We want to know what are the liabilities. We want to know what is the situation with this company. Do they have any fines on them? Do they have any liabilities? Imagine that you just buy this company and then turns out that this company has no assets or has huge debt or has huge problems because of which you cannot run this business. So then all of your money will be wasted. Any of you watched this series Silicon Valley? Anybody watch Silicon Valley? Have you heard of Silicon Valley, a series? Yeah, Anubhav has watched Silicon Valley. Very good, very good. Anybody else? Only Anubhav? Anybody else who watched Silicon Valley? There was a case in Silicon Valley. There's in the part of the story. Okay. If you remember what happens, somebody buys a company without due diligence. Okay. So there's this company called Pied Piper, which goes and makes a software which is video software which is used by a lot of underage people, and pedophiles get into the software, and there was some violation of regulations, and they had not even introduced those checks and balances which will keep the young people away from the software. And because of that, there are some huge problems. Okay. And the company realizes that they are in big trouble because of this. Okay. They realize that they are in big trouble. But then there is one guy who really wants to, somebody saying spoiler. Sure, if you care more about watching Silicon Valley rather than learning due diligence, it's a spoiler. So what happens is, this company, so basically there is a billionaire guy who wants to buy this company from a long time, and he thinks, okay, I have got a great opportunity to buy, and he makes an offer, and this company sells to him. Okay, but the funny thing is that they are only selling because they have huge, like $100 million of fine or something like that, which is pending on them, and they are really in big trouble because of that fine. But when they are selling, they are getting rid of the fines, because the company which is buying, the other company which is buying them, is getting into, like, you will have to pay the fine later because they own the company, so they will pay the fine later. So this is how they get out of the problem. Okay. So you can imagine that this can happen in any business. If you're buying a company and you don't know what is it that you're buying into, you buy it without due diligence. In Silicon Valley, in that thing, the big company Hulu, I think it was called Hulu or something, they buy Pied Piper, this small startup, without doing due diligence, and they had to pay all this huge fine later on, right? This is why due diligence is done, so that you don't unknowingly, you don't end up buying a company which has a lot of problems. So when you're buying a company, right, you are thinking of certain like benefits that you'll get from buying the company. Or if you're investing in the company, you're thinking that, okay, this company will grow and then I'll make some money, so I'll get return on my investment. That's why you're doing all this, right? But how do you know that if somebody is making some claims that, oh, we have a great company, it's fantastic, for all you know, they haven't been paying their taxes for the last 3 years, 4 years, and they have to pay huge fines to the tax department? Possible, right? Or maybe they have gotten into really bad contracts, because of which they will face really a lot of problems. So you, without doing a due diligence, you do not really understand what kind of company you're buying into, what kind of business you're investing in. And because of this, due diligence is absolutely necessary. Okay. So this is due diligence. So before due diligence, before buying into any company or before investing into any company, you want to check if everything adds up. Like in this company, have they got all their licenses in place? Have they got whatever they are saying? Are there contracts in place? Have they done compliances? If there are some problems, then you need to identify. Maybe these are fixable problems, right? Many times these problems are some small problems which can be easily fixed. So before investing, I want to know what are the problems with this company. Before buying a company, I want to know what are the problems with this company, so I can knowingly get into it, and also I can find some remedy where possible. And it is possible that in some cases, I don't want to invest in this company because there are really bad things I find while doing a due diligence, right? So that is also a possibility. So we are going to talk about all these issues, right? So anybody knows of all the people who have done due diligences before? So many of you said that I have done a due diligence before. What are some of the steps involved in due diligence? Can you tell me what happens during a due diligence? So you understand that due diligence happens when somebody is thinking of buying a company or somebody is actually investing in a company, right? A due diligence can happen even when you are giving a loan into a company. You might want to first do a due diligence before giving a big loan to any company, right? So what are the different steps involved in due diligence? Can you think of all the steps? Can you give me at least 1 or 2 steps? Anybody in the chats? Quick. Parth, Jessica, Uma. Tax filings, financial audit. No. Okay. So first of all, you remember this, that due diligence is not only legal due diligence. Okay. There are different types of due diligence. Okay. So many of you are talking about financial due diligence, right? So there can be a financial due diligence. There can be a technical due diligence. There is always a business due diligence. Okay. If it is a very technology heavy company, there can be a technical due diligence, okay, to check out if the technology claims are actually adding up. Financial due diligence, you check if all the taxes are paid, if all the accounts are genuine, if all the books are matching, if all the bank account expenditure statements and everything is matching, right? Because without seeing that, you do not want to you cannot actually do a investment, right? You want to know whatever the financial claims the other side is making, it's all adding up. So what are the different steps involved in due diligence? So yeah, sure, there can be a business due diligence where you want to see that, okay, these guys, are their clients happy? This business is claiming that they have served these many clients. Do they have so many clients? They are saying that this provides services or products to these big companies. Do they actually give such a service? So that is a business due diligence. After that, there can be a legal due diligence. Legal is last, then financial and technology due diligence, everything. And then finally, there is also a legal due diligence. Okay. Legal due diligence is something that lawyers do. Okay. Okay. Madhavan is asking, can the sales side also do cross due diligence? Sales side does not do due diligence on the buyer because that will not help them in any way. But they do. I'm going to talk about a reverse due diligence. Hold on for a moment. Very soon I'll come to the point of what is the reverse due diligence. There I'll tell you what sales side does. Sometimes sales side does due diligence. That's called a reverse due diligence, and I'll explain why and how that is done. Okay. Okay, so what are the different steps involved in a due diligence, right? So first, before doing anything else, you need to understand the transaction and the deal structure. What is the deal that we are getting into? Okay, is it an acquisition? Is it an investment? So for example, is it am I investing in a listed company? Am I listed in a private company? Am I listed in am I investing in a company and investing, let's say, only 5% and promoter owns 95%? Or am I investing in a company which recently raised investment, a due diligence was done 6 months back and they are raising another round? So now if I'm doing another due diligence, then parties may not be interested in going into so much of details. They only may say we are on a limited due diligence for the last 6 months or last 1 year. Okay. Sometimes you are doing a due diligence because you are only buying 5% in a company or 2% equity of a company, and you're not spending too much money. So you might say, I don't want to do a very detailed due diligence. I want a limited diligence, only this much. Okay. However, if you are buying 90% of a company or you're buying 51% of a company, in such circumstances, you might have a very high level of due diligence because the promoter is getting out of the company, you will be left with the company. So you need to make sure that everything is fine, everything is in order. Otherwise, it is all your problem later on, right? So this is why due diligence, it depends a lot on the transaction and the deal structure. Another example I can give you how it depends on a deal structure is that imagine that there is a acquisition of shares, right? So you imagine there is a acquisition of shares of a company. That is one situation. Another situation is that you are actually buying the assets of a company, a slump sale. Imagine you are buying a factory in a slump sale and you are not buying the shares. So in these two circumstances, what documents you will be looking into would be completely different. It will not be the same. Okay. So it's very important to understand the transaction and the deal structure before you even start to think of doing a due diligence. Okay. So because depending on that, the detail level of the due diligence may change. Okay. Next thing is that you set the parameters for due diligence. You said that, okay, I am going to look into last 7 years of documents or 10 years of documents or 3 years of documents. Okay. That's very important to decide before doing due diligence. Okay. In case of tax, we'll look into 7 years, but corporate will look into only 3 years. So these kind of decisions are taken between the parties before the due diligence starts. Okay. All these parameters are set before the due diligence happens. Okay. Then there is something called an information requisition, right? So now it is with the lawyers, and the lawyers request for information. First, the lawyer will study this company and research on the company and identify what all laws apply to them. What are the laws with which this company is supposed to comply? For example, a pharmaceuticals company and telecom company would be complying with different sets of laws. Some laws will be exactly same, but a lot of laws are different. Sector specific laws would be different. So you have to look at that. Okay, that what is the information that you want from this company. Depending on the business, it may vary. Depending on the industry, it may vary. Okay. So you prepare an information requisition list, which is a list of questions, a list of documents that you want from the other side. You prepare this exhaustive list and give it to them. And it is highly likely that there will be another round of information you'll request second time and third time. But first you request some things, and based on what you receive, some of the things you will receive, some of the things you will not receive. You go through those documents, and then you might want more documents from what you have read and what you have realized about this company. You might ask for some more documents. This is also part of the due diligence process. Okay. Document review. So obviously during the due diligence, you are reviewing the documents you have received. You will also review the explanations you receive. Maybe a certain document is not there and the company provides an explanation. So you have to take all of this into account and come to a conclusion. Based on the conclusion, you will be drafting a due diligence report. Okay. I am glad that you guys are asking questions. Keep asking questions in the chat. I will soon take up the questions. Okay, so keep posting questions. So drafting of a due diligence report happens after this. So all your conclusions, all your observations, you will write in a report. And remember that there may be a long report where you have put everything in details, but you might prepare an executive summary which is short, maybe 20 pages, 30 pages, 10 pages executive summary, which is a short version. Okay, so that it helps that whoever has, the decision makers can quickly understand the findings, key findings of the due diligence report. Okay. You also remember that you just do not write a due diligence report and you don't just send it to the buy side. Okay. You actually consult the sell side, buy side, everyone. You tell them, oh, this is what you have found. Especially if there are some problematic things, you discuss with everyone, and people will tell you their explanations. They might give you supportive documents. They might, basically you will come to a conclusion that, okay, finally how to present the due diligence report. And after consulting all the parties, you finally take a call as to what will be there in the report. and then you finalize it and you give it. And this is a very important step not to be skipped. And you highlight the outcomes to the client. Probably there will be a meeting where in the client you will explain, okay, these are our final findings. Okay. And assessment of the due diligence report is then would be done by the other. So the sales, so the buy side, which is investing, or a bank, or whoever is putting in the money or giving a loan or doing whatever, they would take this report and they will also assess it from their side, thinking of what to do. Or the buyer's lawyer also will assess and come to a conclusion about how they are going to proceed, and they will advise their business side accordingly. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Right now there have been some questions. Okay, who pays for the due diligence? Who hires the lawyer, right, for doing due diligence? Very good question. In most cases, in case of big transactions, usually the buyer who's buying or investing will be paying for the lawyer, will be hiring the lawyer also. Unfortunately, in case of small venture capital deals, sometimes the company will be asked to pay for the due diligence. So it is hired by the, so whoever, by the way, so what interesting thing is that whoever hires, whoever is going to pay will have a say on who is getting hired by, but usually the investor signs off on the lawyer or on the CA, whoever is going to do the due diligence. CAs usually do the financial due diligence, and the due diligence, legal due diligence is done by the lawyers, and it would be signed off by the investor. Even if the company is hiring, even if the target is hiring the lawyer and paying for the lawyer, they are answerable to the investor. Okay, so the buying side, but this is an aberration. Most of the time the lawyer is hired by the buy side. Okay, so this is important. Different types of due diligence. Different types of due diligence, I already told you. There is a financial due diligence, legal due diligence, technology due diligence, business due diligence, right? Now you need to also know what is a reverse due diligence. Can you guess what is a reverse due diligence? I guess all of you will get this wrong, but let's see if you can get it right. In the chat, quickly tell me what is reverse due diligence according to you. Let's see who can answer this. Some people are quickly Googling, I guess. Yeah. What is reverse due diligence? Selling side does due diligence. Yes. Due diligence of the buyer. No. That is what you will think. Reverse means now selling side is doing a due diligence on the buyer. But the buyer is giving money, and it doesn't matter so much usually, right? The due diligence is not done on the buyer. I have never heard of the seller doing a sell side doing a due diligence on the buy side. You'd look at some things that, okay, these people should not be terrorists, or like, investing black money in our company. That kind of things can lead to a problem. But if it is most of the time you don't do a due diligence, right? But seller does a DD on his own company. Swapnil is right. Okay. Seller does a DD on his own company. Now that is called a reverse due diligence. Now, can you guess why the seller will do a due diligence on their own company, right? So imagine I am LawSikho and I'm doing a reverse due diligence on LawSikho. Why will I do that? Keep the information confidential. Okay, that's a thought. Anything else you can say? Why will I do it? What is the benefit of doing a reverse due diligence? Why will somebody do a reverse due diligence? Any guess? Cross-check, to approach investors, to mitigate risks. Very good. You guys are right. So I will do a due diligence on myself because before going to an investor, I don't want to leave things to chances. I want to know what can go wrong during a due diligence so that I can fix it from beforehand and be ready. So when a due diligence actually happens, nothing can go wrong, right? So it is a great idea to do a reverse due diligence for any company because you are essentially preparing for a real transaction later on. So during the real transaction, there will be a due diligence and you will be very, very prepared and you will have no problems at all. This is the point of a reverse due diligence. Clear? smoother transaction. Okay, very good. Now, at what stage of a transaction is a due diligence ordered? Okay, when will you ask for a due diligence? When will the buy side say that, okay, now it is time to do a due diligence? Can anybody answer this question? When is the right time to do a due diligence? After signing the term sheet. Very good, right? So the term sheet is an initial agreement which is non-binding usually, mostly, like it has some binding clauses, but mostly non-binding. But it has a basic agreement on the investment, right? So the idea is that once the term sheet is signed, then you proceed to due diligence, and if due diligence works out, then the investment will go through, right? After signing the term sheet, if the due diligence goes through, I mean, there is nothing horrible that comes out in the deal in the due diligence, then the investor will put in money. What is a term sheet? It is a summary. It's a summary of key commercials between the parties, maybe some legal terms and conditions also that they agree on. So, for example, the valuation of the company. So, initial valuation of the company. So, the final valuation may be different because after the due diligence, the valuation may go down because of certain problems. But initially, a ballpark valuation is agreed between the parties. Okay, and this is a contract that they sign. It is mostly non-binding except certain clauses are binding in the MOU, not MOU, sorry, in the term sheet. And this is a term sheet which is very important to sign. Initial level of negotiation happens before the term sheet is signed. Usually it is about the valuation, about the deal structure and all of that. So the deal structure is recorded in the term sheet and the commercials of the deal are recorded. The final terms and conditions will be negotiated in a shareholder agreement or a share subscription agreement or a share purchase agreement. But the term sheet is not a very long document. It's a short document, bullet points, and it has some legal validity also, and it captures the key understanding of the parties. Okay. Is it for a certain period of time? Yes. Usually it will be a time-bound thing that if the transaction doesn't closes within a certain period of time, the term sheet will lapse. Okay. But usually, if you give a term sheet to a company and you let it lapse and you don't close that, the company will be very angry because this is not how it works. You are giving term sheet only when you are satisfied that you want to invest in the company, and only if there is some horrible problem in the due diligence, that some really dirty things come up, some really problematic red flags that we want to talk about come up, then only you are supposed to back out. Otherwise you don't back out. If you back out, it is really, really bad. It is not supposed to be done like that. Okay. So when would investors, sorry, this was the question, right? When would investors back out from a deal after a due diligence? Okay. So after a due diligence, you back out from deals. So for example, if you find that there is fraud in the company, right? Their books are not genuine. Whatever numbers they are showing are not real. Okay. Maybe you find out that this company has been bribing somebody and that is how they have got a big contract. Or you realize that their most important source of revenue is compromised because there is a huge IP violation or IP infringement for which they have received notice and a litigation is going on. Okay. So then you might say that this is very dangerous very risky to invest in this company. It is a red flag issue. Tomorrow or maybe their license is invalid or they have violated the conditions of their license. And these kind of very serious things come up during the due diligence. Then the investor may back out. They may not want to invest. Probably they will not want to invest if such a horrible thing comes out during the due diligence. Okay. Now, this is one situation. Then also it can happen that the valuation may go down. Okay. How can valuation go down? So sometimes it is not a life-threatening matter. Whatever deficiency the investor founds, it is not such a serious thing that they want to run away from the deal. The deal is still good. The company is still not bad, but it can be happen. So imagine that we had decided the valuation of this company is 10 crore rupees. 10 crore rupees is the valuation. Then while doing due diligence, I discover that this company has a service tax claim from the government of the tax department of 1 crore rupees. 1 crore rupees claim is there from the service tax department. Now you are contesting the claim, litigation is going on, and you are not sure whether you will win this litigation or lose. So the investor may say that, okay, if you lose this litigation, you have to pay 1 crore. Correct? So maybe there is a chance that you will win this litigation. The chance is 50-50 that you might lose, you might win. So therefore, we will discount the valuation by 50 lakhs, 50% of 1 crore, which you might have to pay. By that, we have to discount the valuation. So the valuation of your company from 10 crore will become 9. So if you are either selling more shares to get the same money from the investor, or you are getting less money and selling the same amount of shares, basically the valuation is going down of the company because of some inherent problem in the company, something that has been discovered during the due diligence. The valuation will be corrected by the investor or by the acquirer before the transaction goes through. Okay. Sir, it isn't the fault of the person doing due diligence for backing out of the investor. No. That is not the point, right? If you are the lawyer who is supposed to do this work, you have to find the faults. If there is any fault, you cannot cover it up. If you cover it up, then you will be in problem later on, right? Okay, Anubhav is saying give more specific examples of when valuation decreases. So once I was doing a due diligence on a company. This company is an Indian subsidiary of a German company. Okay, so German company created a subsidiary in India, provided technology, but now an investor is investing in the Indian company. Clear? Now that Indian company needs to have is using the brand of the German company. So there has to be a trademark license agreement or some kind of trademark. Basically, the trademark is not owned by this Indian company. Okay. Now it is a serious issue. So when we discovered this in the due diligence, because not having a brand can create a huge problem, right? If you don't own your brand, you're running a company, it's hundreds of crores. Tomorrow, what if the foreign company starts asking for a big royalty payment? So as an investor, I'm concerned about this. So what I would say is that, okay, either the foreign company writes a agreement giving Indian company, full license perpetually, etc., so that Indian company can have the same rights. And if not, then tell us how much we have to pay to the foreign company to get this license if it is not free. And then the valuation will go down by that percentage. Why should I pay for something like this, right? So whatever, settle this before I invest. Correct? And if you don't settle it before I invest, then your valuation must decrease. Because tomorrow, if your company have the legal right to claim some rights, and then we will be in problem, my investment will be adversely impacted. So your valuation can decrease for this reason. Okay, this is another reason. Another reason valuation may decrease is, imagine that there is I see that you have violated certain labor law provisions, because of which there can be big fines. Okay, so I know that the fine may happen, may not happen, but if the fine happens, then you have to pay. So I may say that, okay, the valuation decreases for this reason, or I can say that promoters valuation is not decreasing, but promoters will have to pay for this. Somebody has to pay for this. If this gets claimed and it is paid out from the company, it will not go from my investment money. Then the promoters of the company is giving a guarantee to the company that they will reimburse the company if these fines have to be paid. Okay. So this is another example. Okay. Shall we move forward, Anubhav? What about others? Required licenses are not in place. Yeah, so it depends. If licenses are not in place, sometimes it is a red flag issue because you don't know whether you can get a license or not. Investor can back out. In other cases, if it is not an important license, there'll be a fine only. You see what is the situation, right? If it is a very serious situation, then you may not even invest. That without this, you cannot function. Like imagine like a telecom company. If you don't have license to operate as a telecom company, if you don't have access to spectrum, who will invest in you, right? So this is the kind of situation. Okay, next one. What do investors want to know from the due diligence exercise? Okay, by now you guys know what the investors want to know from due diligence exercise, right? They want to know, is there any chance that their investment or they are buying into a company, whatever they are spending, okay, are they knowing the full picture of the company which they are buying, or is there some hidden costs, right? Nobody likes hidden costs, right? So once they are buying into the company, they want to know exactly what they are buying into, what are the liabilities, what is everything, and if everything is fine, no problem. If there is some problem, then it has to be caught at this stage before the money is paid out. That is what investors want to know from the due diligence exercise. Different levels of legal due diligence for different kind of transactions and deal structures take place, right? So I already gave you an example. Depending on whether how much I'm buying into the company. If just I'm giving an example, imagine that 3 months back, this company did an IPO and it got listed. And now I am doing a private placement of a bunch of shares with another private shareholder, right? This is possible. Now, right, basically whenever IPO happens in capital markets transactions, a massive due diligence takes place before the IPO, the stocks can be listed. So if there was no problem when the stock got listed, then I might say, you know what, I don't want to see what happened before listing. I want to see what happened after listing. That's all. Limited due diligence. Correct? So very limited due diligence only for 3 months can happen. Okay. Now I'm going to talk to you about what will you be expected to do during a legal due diligence if you are a lawyer, right? Who all wants to know that how to do a due diligence and what is your job during a due diligence? If you want to know, you say yes. Quick. Ashwin, Pranav, Kshitij, Avijit, Anubhav, Sumant, Madhu, Shivani. Who else? Madhavan, you don't want to know? Huh? Shivani. Okay, great. Very good. So you're going to talk about this now. Okay. First of all, you have to prepare an information requisition list. Okay. And we talked about what is an information requisition list when you're starting. And this is the work that is done by very junior lawyers. Okay. So junior lawyers, you have to go and research. Okay. You have to research. Research is very important at this stage. You'll try to find out everything about the company, about that industry. What are the rules and regulations applicable to that industry? What are recent controversies in that industry? What are the trends in that industry? What is the business doing well in that industry or doing badly? Because you need to have a lot of context to ask for the right documents, to ask for the right information. If you miss out an important recent trend, then you might end up missing out on some important critical aspect of the whole due diligence, right? So you research first. You want to see what kind of laws apply, what are the laws there, what are the regulations, what are the local regulations, everything you possibly there that may be applicable to that company, you want to know everything. Okay, so you research a lot, and based on that you prepare an information requisition list. Okay, like the audit reports, you can say it's an audit but a legal audit, right? Compliance audit you can say, but not only compliance, you look at a lot of things. I'm going to tell you exactly what you look at in very shortly. I'm going to tell you, but you research on the company and you prepare this exhaustive list of questions and information that you request from the company. Okay, what kind of laws and regulations do you need to know while doing due diligence? So you need to know a lot of different small laws, regulations while doing due diligence. For example, if you are doing a due diligence, you need to know all the labor laws. Imagine you're with a factory, okay, you're doing a due diligence on a manufacturing company. You need to know each and every labor law, Factories Act, ID Act, Industrial Disputes Act. Achha, now there is new things like, you know, you have, earlier there were many different laws. Now there is more, said there are four codes: Code of Wages, right? Code of Social Security, Code of Industrial Dispute, and so on, right? So you have to know all these codes, and before there are other laws. And you also have to know the previous laws, because the new codes have become applicable now, but they might have, say, under the Maternity Benefit Act, which is now in the Code of Wages or Code of Social Security, they might have violated some provision 3 years back, which can create a problem now. Yeah. Sexual harassment law, you have to know all the laws that are applicable and under the labor laws. There may be some state regulations, there may be some state amendments to a certain law. You have to know even that. Okay, you may have to so that is one area. Then you might, there's a factory, right? So you have to check, okay, on what land is this factory built? Is this land owned by the company? Then are the ownership title documents in place? Is it leased? Then is the lease document all right? What are the conditions of the lease? Can the lease be cancelled? Can the lease be renewed easily after 20, whatever? When will the lease run out? Can it be renewed? If it cannot be renewed, that's a problem. Then where will you run your factory? Correct? So many. So all of these things become relevant, each and everything. You want to see what licenses are needed, environmental laws apply or not, what are the environment clearances needed, is there any notice from anybody, is there any anything, each and everything you need to know. So you need to know all the laws and regulations that possibly apply to that. And I'm going to tell you exactly in which areas, right? Very shortly. How to review documents. So every document you have to see, for example, if you're looking at a contract, you have to see, okay, is this contract properly signed? Is there a signature properly from both sides? Otherwise, you might review a contract which is signed by one side. I have seen people making such mistakes during due diligence. The company has made a mistake by not putting signature from one side. You have to check, even if that is there. You have to check if each and every contract is properly stamped. You have to check if it is registered or not registered. If it is not registered, does it require to be registered? Is it okay if this contract is not registered? For example, any contract which is regarding a immovable property has to be registered. If it is not registered, it is not valid. It cannot be brought to a court to prove your validity or ownership or title or whatever rights you have. You cannot even prove in the court if it is not registered. Okay, there's section 17 of Registration Act. So there are such serious issues while reviewing documents that you have to see. You have to see that, okay, there is a certain order, certain license. Is it valid? Till when is it valid? What are the conditions of that license? Is there any violation? A lot of things you have to check while doing document review. Then while doing this, you might find certain red flags. Red flags are serious violations or breaches which will impact the business. which will either reduce the valuation or which will which may want the investor to back out of the deal, that is a red flag. Examples of red flags. Okay, what are some examples of red flags? I told you already. Can you think of some more examples of red flags? Another example of a red flag, imagine that 90% of the business comes from government contracts, and then you go and check the contracts are not valid, or there is something in the contract, okay, which has serious issues in that. Omkar is asking, isn't reverse due diligence just legal audit? What's the difference? What is legal audit? Okay, reverse due diligence is you are trying to see what an investor will do, you are trying to replicate that. In a legal audit, you might not do that, right? A legal audit may be much more restricted, like a compliance audit. You want to see, okay, are we complying to our laws? That's it. But that's not a legal due diligence. It's much more than just a compliance audit. You are checking much more than compliance. Okay. So, okay, distressed debts, right? Sure. So you might realize that this is a, let's say it's a NBFC or it is a fintech company, and you realize that this is a company whose debts are in real stress. They are not going to be able to recover their money and they'll go bankrupt. While doing this due diligence, you may realize, and then it may be a red flag. Excess debt on balance sheet, excess money withdrawal by promoter. So you may realize that the promoter has last investment round, investor raised, and investors put in 3 crore rupees and 1.5 crore was taken out by the promoter, and he went and bought a Ferrari. And that time the new investors may say, we don't want to invest in a company like this where the promoter is so crazy. Okay. If government is about to pass a legislation which will make some of the companies' operations illegal, will impact companies' revenue substantially. Very good, Anubhav. That is also a red flag. So imagine you, while doing your research, you realize there is a law pending in parliament or with the state government which might make this illegal, or government has sought a white paper, okay, saying that we are thinking of, should we make this illegal? And then if you realize such a thing, like it happened to cryptocurrency companies, right? So then you might decide that no, we are not going to invest in this company. It is a red flag. How does due diligence, doctrine of least pendants, whatever least pendants, how does due diligence, doctrine of least pendants is there a dispute pending, so you will not say anything about it. But how you won't invest in a company which is a dispute pending? It's not like that. Okay. So there is a pending litigation on a company, so investors won't invest in it. That is not how it works. Okay. How does due diligence influence negotiations and drafting of agreements? Okay. Now this is very important. We understood all these things, that there are different things we find in the due diligence. And imagine certain problems have been found that, okay, they did not do certain secretarial compliances. This company doesn't have a company secretary. They are supposed to have a company secretary, but they do not have a company secretary. They are supposed to have, they haven't done their audits. They haven't filed their annual reports. They haven't done this, they haven't done that. Okay. So several problems have been found. Now, how will this impact the negotiations and drafting of agreements? One thing we discussed, that if there is a certain cost impact, the valuation may go down. What else happens? Anybody, what else happens? How will this impact? Let's say they're going to draft, negotiate and sign a shareholder agreement. How will now the shareholder agreement change because of the findings in the due diligence? Can anybody answer this question over here? How will that impact? Come on. Quick. DD report generally consists of solutions to red flags. so we can't include them as CPs in the transaction documents, right? So see, red flags, if it is an easy solution, then it is not a red flag, right? Red flags are things for which there is no solution. Red flags are things because of which it's like, don't invest in this company, don't buy in this company. Red flag, like don't even come here, right? If there's a remedy, if there's a solution, Swapnil, then it is not a red flag. Okay, but you will give, if there are certain deficiencies, the due diligence report will also say that these are the solutions. Now there are two kinds. So there is CPU mentioned. So there are condition precedents and there can be condition subsequent. What are condition precedent and condition subsequent? Very important concept if you are a deal lawyer for you to understand. Okay, so condition precedent is you put in the contract that only when these things are done, then only we'll invest money in this company, or we'll buy the shares of this company, or we are going to acquire this company only when you do this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 things. Condition precedent. And there are maybe condition subsequent, another 4, 5, 10, 15, 100 things which you may say that okay, we are investing now on the condition that within so much time or within a reasonable period of time, you will sort out all these issues at your own cost. And sometimes you will say that the promoters is giving us indemnity, that if there is anything goes wrong here, they will pay for it. They are giving a guarantee that they will pay for any extra costs, whatever, right? But if there is a lot of issues, you will not accept it. Even at this condition, you will not put in. But if there are small issues, you let it go, saying that okay, no problem. The promoters are giving some kind of a guarantee or warranty, or they are giving indemnity to the investors, and based on that, such a transaction goes through. But yes, there could be some things which are condition precedent and some things will be condition subsequent. We are not going into too much details about this today, right? There is not enough time also. So what are the different sections of a due diligence report and what do you look for in each section? Very important to understand, right? Corporate section. Anybody wants to guess or tell me? So many of you are actually have good knowledge of this. So in the corporate section, what is covered? Effect dividend. Dividend doesn't get affected by due diligence. What is wrong with you? There's nothing like this. Whether it is a valid company, that is actually correct. So whether you see in the corporate section, whether the registration is proper, whether the directors, what are their DIN numbers, do they have, like, is it following all the company law, is it properly valid, does it have a registration certificate which is valid, does it have all the secretarial work under the Companies Act, is it following, right? So all of that will be disclosed in this section. Okay, next is the finance. So you look at the finance, so you will see that okay, has this company taken any loans, does it have any charges on its assets, does it have any finance agreements, facilities, anything? Okay, does the company have CS Madhavan? That's correct. That is also in the corporate. Audit has happened or not, all these things will go there. Finance also, certain of this information, financial information of the company will be disclosed, especially if there is any loans, which is usually the case. Any company will have some overdraft facility, some loans, some working capital facility, term loans, blah blah blah, many things, mortgages, hypothecation, all of that will be disclosed here in the finance part. Okay, then there is a licenses section, right? So it is obvious whatever licenses they might be having would be listed here, and whether they're valid or not, all of that will be listed here. Okay, if there is a threat to the license, that will also be listed here. Statutory compliances. So there are so many laws that may apply to a company. So is it complying to all those statutes? This is also a section. Tax, right? Is there any tax dispute? You don't go too much into taxes, okay? But you go into this, that okay, have they been paying taxes? Do they have all the tax registrations? Is there any notice that they have received from tax department? Is there any litigation going on? What is happening? All of that. Disputes and litigation, very important. Is there any consumer litigation? Is there any litigation with any of the employees? Is there litigation with previous investors? If there is litigation with anybody, okay, any dispute, and maybe it's not litigation, maybe it is a mediation happened, or there is a litigation that is over. Maybe it is maybe there was just a notice from somebody. Everything has to, that's also a dispute. A notice may be the beginning of a dispute which you need to know about. So anything that is there, you want to know and you want to report it. Then intellectual property. Now, not all companies have intellectual property, but some companies have intellectual property. At least they have a brand name, trademark, that should be trademarked. So all of these things you see whether the company has its IP in order. Okay, important question. Then there is contracts. What are the contracts that the company has entered into? Are there any kind of bad clauses in those contracts? Sometimes companies, without realizing, get into contracts which are very open-ended, damages clauses, indemnity clauses. Okay, they do not limit or cap their indemnity. So those can be very dangerous contracts that can get them into a lot of trouble. If there is such things, you report it in the due diligence report. If there are bad contracts they have entered into, which has very onerous terms on the company, that you report. But other than that, you also see what are the very important contracts for the company's business. What is the status of these contracts? Have any notices been received under these contracts? Is there any breach of terms in these contracts from our side or from the other side? All of these things are to be checked and reported in due diligence. Real estate. So what are the premises of the company? Today, there are companies which are fully remote. They don't have any real estate at all, remote company. But generally speaking, most companies have warehouses, factories. They may not own their premises, offices. They may not own their premises, but at least they have some contracts, right? So all of these contracts have to be reviewed and have to be seen that, okay, if it is important for the business, is there any problem with these contracts? Is the business secured from real estate perspective? That is also checked. Okay, labor and employment. This is also very important to see what kind of contracts the company has entered into with its employees. Okay, are there different types of contracts? There may be key managerial personnel like CEO, Chief Product Officer, CFO, Chief COO, Operating Officer, Chief Operating Officer. All these people, what kind of contracts do they have? Is there a key man insurance? Is there any litigation going on with anybody? Is there any sexual harassment allegation? This has become very important these days. Is there any kind of complaints from any kind of wrongdoing or a whistleblower, something from the employees? Anything is there, right? So then you would want to know before you invest. Okay, this is in labor and employment section. Okay, and all the regulations, all the laws that apply, are you complying? Do you have all the registrations? Are you paying PF? Are you paying ESI? Have you paid whatever laws are there under? There's even a Labor Welfare Fund Act which is applicable in some states. Are you paying that? Even in Bombay, there is a Security Guards Act which you have to comply with. That also you write, if that is applicable. Okay. Does only one lawyer handle all this? No. It's only one lawyer in this due diligence. There may be 1 or 2 or 3 lawyers, but team of lawyers. But it's not like there are specialized IP lawyers, specialized tax lawyer. It's not like that. One lawyer, if you're in the M&A team, if you're in the investment team, you are doing all of it as a due diligence, right? Whichever section might come to you, you have to do it. Sometimes there are 2-3 people in the same team in the interest of time, because in a huge due diligence, it can, if one person has to go through everything, it can take months. That is sometimes not possible. Okay. There can be other sections too, depending on the business. Like insurance can be an important factor in some business, then there can be a whole insurance section, right? And there can be other sections also, depending on what the business is, right? All right, all right. So how not to do your due diligence? Okay, how not to do your due diligence is that, see, when you will be first doing your due diligence, high chances that you have a mindset like a detective. You're like, I will find some flaw here and there. That's great, but you have to understand that very small flaws, like if you have violated the Security Guards Act, okay, the fine is like say 1100 rupees. It's not going to impact a $1 million transaction, right? It is not material. You can point it out, but nobody is going to give you any brownie points for finding a problem that has 1100 rupees fine. Okay, are you getting what I'm saying? Or even if it is a 5000 rupees fine or 50,000 rupees fine, okay, you will point out a 50,000 rupees fine, that there can be a 50,000 rupees fine, but it is not such a big deal. It's not a deal breaker. So focus on the big picture, right? And as a lawyer, your job is to get the deal done, not to put like spokes in the deal and like make the deal fail, right? If the deal fails, it's not good for you as a lawyer. It's not good for the firm. Nobody will like it. Clients will hate you. So yes, surely if there is a real huge problem somewhere, then it is very, very important to find that problem, so that then your clients will be very happy for saving them. But if you are taking small things and poking them, it is not appreciated. Okay, clients will hate you. Yeah. Okay, so not the client, your seniors will get irritated. Yeah, chota mota sab, what are you bringing, right? So how to write a due diligence report? Okay, how to write a due diligence report? This is very important. But the due diligence report, lot of law firms, unfortunately, write like hundreds and hundreds of pages, makes like hundreds of pages of summary and all of this, which is usually not appreciated by clients. If the client wants it, this is fine. There are some old school clients who want a detailed due diligence report where they want everything summarized, every possible thing under the sun. But this is usually not how clients will behave. They want a short due diligence report, maybe 30-40 pages, not more than that, and a 5-page executive summary. So you have to be very good at presenting information. And it's about, if you are working at a good law firm, it is not only just writing that matters, it's even the presentation matters. Are you using tables? Are you using beautiful graphs? Are you doing this? You might think, I have not learned this in law college, nobody taught me this. Doesn't matter. Presentation is very key. And if you have beautiful presentation, then clients also feel good, and tables and all of this. Okay, so you should be very good at formatting while preparing a due diligence report. And it's about how to present the data in a very good way, very easy to understand way, right? So it's very, very important. Keep that in mind. So if you're good at drafting a due diligence report, you are writing a short report, but highlighting everything that is important, and presenting data in a way that people can, at a glance, can understand everything. Tables and graphs and pie charts and Venn diagrams, I don't know, whatever you can use to make it very presentable, it's very good. Okay. Role of automated software in due diligence. So due diligence earlier, if and people have said this before, that if 4 lawyers were needed, 4 junior lawyers were needed in a due diligence, now software is automatically doing the summary. Automatically, contracts are getting auto summarized. All the clauses which are problematic are getting automatically picked up. Sorry, I was dropping a bottle. Automatically gets picked up. Okay. And many things happen, like license automatically highlighted, and things that used to sit and write for hours and hours and hours are getting done by a software in seconds, which is really good news for young lawyers, because you don't have to spend those 30 hours typing just contract numbers and how much money is, how much stamp duty was paid and so on, right? All that is not there, but which is good, but also bad in a way, means that law firms have less work for you. So you have to be much better. Earlier, just for doing this, law firm needed some people, and interns could do this, young lawyers could do this. Now that work is gone. So you have to do actually meaningful stuff. Okay, so what would you be expected to do as a junior associate during a due diligence? Okay, it's an important question. So very important, you do all the research. You are actually putting together the information request and getting it approved by your senior associate. You have to understand the deal structure and everything, what deal is going on, so that you know how much, what to do, how much to go. You have to make sure you understand the parameters of the due diligence that your seniors have set, right? Then you have to definitely do all the document reviews, confirm the summaries, cross-check everything. You have to draft the initial version of the due diligence report, okay, which will get finalized by your seniors. But the more a final version you can prepare as a junior lawyer, the better. The less work the senior has to do. More they'll bless you, more they'll be happy with you, more they'll give you more work, and therefore you will get more bonus, you will get more faster promotions, and so on. You'll have a better reputation in the law firm. So what would you be expected to as a junior associate during a due diligence? Your job is to make the senior associate's life easier. It is your job to do as much as possible so that the senior associate has an easy life, can go home early, and doesn't have to stay back in the office at night. This is your job as a junior associate. What are the senior associates expected to do during a due diligence? Their job is to, usually senior associates are running the diligence exercise, right? They are running the exercise, correct? So they are responsible for the outcome. If you miss something, then it will be their ass in the line. But that is why they'll shout at you also, because if you missed a document, you failed to highlight some really bad things, so they might cross-check. But if they are having to cross-check documents, that means they don't trust you, then it is very bad for you. Okay, but if they can trust you and they are not cross-checking, it is very good. But then you will be appreciated, and they are finalizing the due diligence report, correct? So as a senior associate's job is to make their partner's life easier, principal associate's job easier, managing associate's job easier, whoever they are reporting to, their job and life easier, right? So that is the job of the senior associate. What do interns do during a due diligence exercise, and how can you be most useful? Now let's say you're an intern. I explained to you what the associates are doing. Remember that as an intern, you want to be able to do as much as a junior associate is doing. A good junior associate, what they are doing, you should be able to do the same. Because what normally they expect from an intern is that, okay, go do some research, acha, read this case law, tell me this. But this way, if you just do this much, you are not standing out. Any intern can go do some case law research. Anyone can go read some law and point out whatever points from that law. But if you want to really stand out during your internship, then you have to do much more than this. You have to be able to do what the associate does, which is you are able to document review, you are able to draft and all these things. Nobody will trust you to do it right in the beginning, but as they see you are doing and you understand everything, slowly they'll start believing that you know stuff, you get stuff. Then they'll give you more and more work. And if you are able to do the work that an associate is doing as an intern, then that is the best case scenario for you, because you are already making a strong case that you should be given the job, right? Because you are showing that, look, I am already able to do what your associates are doing. And that means people want to hire you, because they want you in your team for simple reason, no other reason than this become easier, right? Their life will become easier. They'll go home earlier every night. This is what all lawyers want. So if you are able to do the job of a junior lawyer, junior associate, this is what interns draft. What? Draft the due diligence report. They don't draft. Nobody asks interns to draft due diligence report. But you are that good an intern, they might let you draft a section. Say one section, they say, okay, you have only anyway reviewed the section, you know everything. Why don't you try drafting this section? Okay. And you're able to do a good job. They are like, oh, this person can draft. Let him draft more. Because everybody is under-resourced. If they find somebody who's able to do the work, why will they not give the work to you? Of course, they will approve it, they will check it, cross-check, they'll rewrite the language, whatever. But the more you can do as an intern, including research, preparing requisition list, maybe you can draft a requisition list. And the more you can do as an intern, the better you would be treated and better chances of getting this thing. Okay. What does the buy side do when they get the due diligence report? Remember that all this work we discussed is the people who are doing the due diligence. But once you prepare the report and you give it to, let's say, the acquiring company or to the investor, let's say it's a VC firm or a PE firm, private equity firm, venture capital firm, you give them your due diligence report from your law firm. Their internal lawyers are going to review this due diligence report and make certain decisions. Even a bank, before giving an loan, they will review this report and take important decisions. Okay. Now, if you like, did you like this today's session? Then you might want to join our WhatsApp group. Okay, this is a WhatsApp group. Let me share the link with all of you. This is the link. Sorry, you didn't receive. 1 second. Who all are in this group? Please join this group quickly. We have more webinars coming up. December 6, December 8 on M&A, corporate law work. Okay. So we have a lot of corporate law related webinars coming up. Would you guys like to join me? If you want to join me, then you have to register for these webinars. Okay. So go to that WhatsApp account and you will be able to WhatsApp group and we'll share all the links in that, right? So that you can join later. I'll share with the YouTube people also who are watching right now on YouTube quickly. Okay, here you guys go. If you are not on this chat group, WhatsApp group, please join here. That would be great. Okay. And let's keep in touch on Twitter. Okay. So here is my Twitter profile, guys. I'm sharing the link with all of you. Please join me on Twitter. Let's stay in touch. Okay. Here is my Twitter link. Let's stay in touch. Okay. Okay, block your time for 2 upcoming workshops. Very important on 7th December and 16th December, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Make sure you have nothing else to do on those days. On 7th, we'll discuss what challenges do you face while working in a law firm and how to overcome it. Okay, so if you want to work in a law firm, we're going to talk about this. If you're already working in a law firm, still join. You may be facing certain problems. We are going to talk about what are these problems and how to overcome them. And 16th December, we'll talk about if you want to build a 1 crore per year corporate law practice, what does it look like? How to build? What would be there? What would the business development look like? How would the client handling look like? So 16th December, I have a 3-hour workshop free of cost where I'll explain to you what 1 crore per year corporate law practice look like and how to set it up. How can you set it up? Okay. So my next session was on Sunday. Tomorrow I'm taking a break. Sunday I have a webinar where I'm going to talk about the new farmer laws, how they are creating new opportunity. You know, it's bad for farmers, for some farmers maybe, but it is great for corporate lawyers. And it is creating tremendous opportunity in merger and acquisitions, investment law, contract drafting work, and technology law related work. Tremendous opportunity getting created, and this law is there. It's here to stay. And change the topics of workshop. No, change of topics are same as I shared last time. Okay, so you can join me on Sunday. We're going to talk about agricultural law reforms and what new opportunities are getting created for corporate lawyers because of that, which will keep lawyers very busy in the years to come. And it is creating great opportunity for you if you want to be a corporate lawyer. If you are already a corporate lawyer, that's also great. You'll come to know a lot of important things. Okay, so what are the feedback for today's webinar? Please share in the chat. Don't forget to share webinars, right? I have, it's a free of cost webinar. I keep sharing my knowledge, effort, time with all of you, but at least you can give me some feedback, genuine feedback, honest feedback in the chat, right? Please give your feedback in the chat. And please, this is a request that you share your takeaways on Twitter and LinkedIn. Tag me, #LawSikho. Okay, please share about 1 or 2 or 3 takeaways. It will also give you more visibility on LinkedIn, on Twitter, right? It will help you to grow your network. More people will connect with you. So it's very important to network on social media, that you keep sharing your learnings, your observations. So whatever you learned today, if you learned anything interesting, please share on social media. Tag me. Also tag LawSikho. It will really help us to spread the word about the work we are doing. Okay. And see you on Sunday. Don't be there on Sunday. Do not miss. Right. Thank you very much. Okay. Would love to know more of your feedback, and definitely connect with me on Twitter, right? Here is my Twitter profile. If you haven't already connected, please connect with me on Twitter. It's a great platform. Earlier topic was how to plan your 5 years. We'll do that. That also will do sometimes. Don't worry. We thought we'll do something for corporate lawyers first. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Looking forward to see you on Sunday. Have a great Saturday. Have a great weekend. Take care. Bye-bye.